Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me. Now, as you probably know, we had an election yesterday here in the U.S., and things didn't go quite the way that a lot of people thought it would. But it didn't go well for people like myself who wanted the Democrats to hold on to the House and the Senate to protect people like me, as well as biological women and things like that, and people like that, right? It didn't go well. Because it looks like the Republicans have picked up the House. They're not likely to get the Senate, but it's still up in the air. It's very possible that it could happen, but it's not likely, right? It's possible, not likely. It will explain why here as we go on. But I don't understand how so many people voted for the Republican Party, a party that has just grabbed onto fascism and ran with it. Not only have they attacked the LGBTQ community, calling us child molesters and groomers and ruining child's lives, bringing guns to libraries where kids are being read to by drag queens. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right? They've reveled in the fact that the Supreme Court got rid of Roe v. Wade. They've been ecstatic that women across this country are now at risk of dying due to pregnancy complications because doctors don't know whether or not they're allowed to provide an abortion, even if the woman is dying. And on this channel, we've discussed extensively some of the health issues that women face during pregnancy that could lead to them needing abortion services. But also, this is the same party who said they want to cut off Social Security completely, cut Medicare completely. One of the things that pulled so many elderly people out of poverty after the Great Depression was Social Security. Right before Social Security, a lot of elderly people either they couldn't live on their own, they had to go live with their family or go to a home, even if they were physically able to take care of themselves, because they had nowhere to be, nowhere they could afford to be. They couldn't afford food. They wouldn't be able to afford medicine until Medicare came around. And they call them entitlements. But you know what's in your paycheck on your pay stub every single time you get a paycheck? Medicare taxes, Social Security taxes. That's your money. And you Republicans voted for them to steal your money. What, do you think they're going to cut you a check for all the money you've paid in when they decide they're never going to pay you Social Security money or help cover your Medicare ever again? Do you think they're going to give you that money back? Some of you really believe this. Some of you Republicans actually believe that these people are going to cut you a check. But you want to know what's actually going to happen? When if the Republicans ever do get full power, president, House, and Senate both, yeah, if they've got rid of Social Security, they're going to give themselves a pay raise and blame you for the extra cost. But you know what? If this didn't affect so many other people that didn't vote for the idiots, that want to take away your money, that want to steal your money, I would say it serves you right. And to every one of you Republicans out there who end up losing your Social Security, I'm going to laugh at you because you allowed it to happen. For the rest of us out there, I'm sorry that this could happen, right? But luckily, the quote, red wave was no more than a drop, a little ripple in the water. Because the Republicans didn't take over everything, right? The Republicans don't have the House and the Senate. They likely have the House, but they won't have the Senate. I was scared of a veto proof majority based on what I was seeing going into the last weeks of the election. That didn't happen. That's not going to happen. Because even if they take the Senate, they're going to take the Senate by one vote. And most stuff be blocked, right? Plus, they wouldn't be able to override a veto from the president, who for the next 2 years is still Joe Biden. Now, talking about the Senate, the thing is, we have a few races that are still outstanding right now. You've got a race in, I think you got the Mark Kelly race in Arizona. You have a race in Nevada, and you have the Herschel Walker and Warnock race in Georgia. Now, the Walker Warnock race is going to a runoff. That'll be held December 6th. There in Georgia. So if you're in Georgia watching this video, get out the vote. Get out there and vote. Take your friends to that to vote. Load up your car and take people to vote. Drive around and grab people and get them to the polling stations if they're looking to go. Make sure anybody and everybody that wants to vote December 6th in Georgia gets there. Be the voting Uber if you have to be, but don't let anybody not show up to that election. Because voter turnout is going to be what sets everything apart, right? That's what's going to be the difference between Herschel Walker, literally a puppet for Donald Trump, or a man who actually cares about the people of Georgia in Warnock. It's going to be the difference in who wins, right? High voter turnout tends to support liberal candidates. So if you're in Georgia, please, for the love of everything you find holy in your life, show up and make sure Herschel Walker does not become a senator from Georgia. People on the right sit there and discuss how Joe Biden can't speak. Herschel Walker is no better, and he's younger. Herschel Walker, Mr. Family Man, Mr. Anti-Abortion, paid at least 2 women to have abortions. And split out on his family so he could get more action with the women. That's not a family man. It's a loser. That's a deadbeat. And one of the women, he basically forced to have an abortion. Drove her to the clinic and sat there in the parking lot until she had it done. But apparently, Fetterman won in Pennsylvania, beating Dr. Oz. Thank God that happened, right? I'm glad Fetterman won. Fetterman, I hope you do well. And that's great. And that's one reason that it's going to be very difficult for the Republicans to take the Senate. The Senate, they now need to flip 2 Democratic seats to Republican seats to be able to take the Senate, and they're not going to be able to do that. I don't think with the Mark Kelly race being close, it looks like Mark Kelly's going to win that, and the Nevada race looks close there again, but it looks like the Democrat is going to win that race too, most likely. But it is very possible that we once again end with a 50-50 split in the Senate, with Kamala Harris being vice president, being the 51st vote. Now let's talk about the history of it all, right? Let's talk about the history of what happens here, or usually happens in a midterm. Generally, if the party of the president, especially when they control the White House, Senate, and House, history has shown time and again that they get just wiped out in the midterms in Congress. It's been like that since the 80s. It's just historically what happens. But yesterday it didn't. Yesterday was actually rather amazing in the fact that it wasn't just, the Republicans didn't pick up, 35 or 40 seats in the House. They didn't just win every race in the Senate. So it shows that there's a lot of anger on the left because a lot of you showed up to vote, but some of you didn't show up to vote in certain places. But historically, it should have been really bad for the Democrats yesterday. But because of the abortion stuff and what the right is trying to do with LGBTQ people, it's just not what happened. Now I'm going to turn your attention a little bit to some sadder stuff, but Texas, Oklahoma, and Florida. Now, in a race in Texas for governor, proving to me that I will never return to the state of Texas, which saddens me. I hoped one day that Texas would see the light, that Texas would vote for somebody who wouldn't attack trans youth, who wouldn't attack LGBTQ people in general, who wouldn't deny pandemics exist, who wouldn't act as if the left is doing something to him, right? Who would quit acting like liberals are ruining the state of Texas. I hoped for a day when Texas would become more purple, maybe, right? Demographically, it should be purple. Looking at the different groups of people in the state. But for some reason, Texas keeps voting for Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott is an evil, evil little troll. He rolls around acting like he's just better than all of us. And he passes just abhorrent laws. Remember, he's the guy that signed off on kidnapping trans kids from their loving, gender-affirming families. He's the reason that kids cannot get gender-affirming care in Texas. He's the reason people like the Shapley family and other families of trans kids had to flee the state and seek refuge in other states as if they were political asylum seekers. They had to move to a state that would not extradite back to Texas for being gender affirming. And do you know how expensive it is to move? I'm sure most of you do. In Oklahoma, here in Oklahoma, we had a chance. Not for a lot, but we could have beat Kevin Stitt. But the liberals stayed home. The liberals did not show up here in Oklahoma. Here in Norman and up in Oklahoma City, sure, we voted. We voted for Joy Hoffmeister. Not because we wanted to, because Joy, as wonderful as a person she seems to be, was up until earlier this year a Republican. She switched party affiliation to run against Kevin Stitt. I have a feeling that after this election is over, she'll revert back to being a Republican. But we had the reason I liked her at all was that she was more of a Republican, at least looking back at her history, a Republican that I remember. The kind of Republican that made me want to be a Republican when I was in high school. Caring, compassionate, let you make your own decisions in life. Held a personal view of being pro-life, but was not going to tell you that you couldn't have an abortion if you needed it. But Kevin Stitt, scandal ridden here in Oklahoma, scandal after scandal, using state money to pay for family businesses and stuff. Yet Oklahoma overwhelmingly reelected him. And now for probably one of the worst states in this country, that if it fell off the end of the fell off the end into the edge of the earth, if there was such a thing, I'd be ecstatic. I'd throw a party. Ron DeSantis won in Florida. After all the attacks he's done to trans people and LGBTQ people with the freaking, don't say gay bill, getting teachers fired just simply because they have a picture of their significant other who happens to be of the same sex on their desk. And just last 2 weeks, about 2 weeks ago, his health department or Department of Health and Services decided that, you can't do any kind of gender affirming care, and that they are forcing kids to detransition completely in Florida, required by law, or parents can be put in jail. The kids can't even socially transition. No puberty blockers. No changes of the name of the legal name. No social transition of any kind. No nothing. Made a video on that, I do believe. This is not hyperbole. Hyperbole. Sorry, I can speak sometimes. Um, but this is going to lead to a lot of suicides. A lot of suicides. And if you think it's going to stop in Florida, no, it's not. There are too many states poised to pass anti-transgender and anti-LGBTQ plus laws to hurt us because they don't care about us. This is why I keep telling people like Caitlyn Jenner that they will never accept you. The GOP is not about accepting LGBTQ people. They never have been, and they never will be. Those of you that believe that need to see the rhetoric that they're giving. Sadly, in other news, Marjorie Taylor Greene kept her seat. I don't understand how she kept her seat. Um, she is one of the worst people in Congress. Second in line for that would be Lauren Boebert, who is currently losing her race for her House seat in Colorado. So that kind of sums up the election, right? But I'll never understand why we always do this. Let's give the other party, power while we have a different party as president, right? I've never understood why we give a president and his party 2 years to do something, and then automatically, boom, we've decided to go the other way. Americans need to get rid of this short-sighted memory because obviously it's not working. But I don't understand it. I also don't understand how the Republicans didn't just win everything. Unless, like I said, it's the anger over abortion. But, anyways, I'll see you down the road. Have a good day and good luck.